Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. You guys have waited long enough and now we can finally start showing off all the DLC stuff in the Silence and the Fury. For the first video we'll be taking a look at Taurox The Brass Bull, focusing around campaign mechanics and playstyle. Now keep in mind that I will be avoiding all possible spoilers in regards to story, ending and so on in this video. There will be one in the future, but I'd rather keep this away as to not spoil anything for any potential viewers. So just for context, who is Taurox the Brass Bull? A Minotaur chieftain who had famously rampaged across most of the known world. His acts of pure random destruction had impressed the Chaos Gods so much that they had blessed him with unholy vigor and, of course, a brass body to make him nigh on invincible. In this DLC, Taurox will seek to make himself invincible by conducting an evil dark ritual. And in the Silence and the Fury, you're going to try and do exactly that. So let's not waste any more time and jump right in. In the Eye of the Vortex campaign, Taurox will begin between the Shadowwood and the Black Coast. This means that the grand majority of your possible enemies, at least in early campaign, will be mostly centered around Dark Elves. There are of course a few Skaven and Greenskins in the regions, but they won't be as much of an issue to deal with, especially in the Eye of the Vortex. In the Mortal Empires campaign, however, you begin in the Obsidian Peaks, which means that you're surrounded by Greenskins, Dark Elves, Wood Elves, and of course Tomb Kings. There is a bit more variety at the start of your campaign, but of course, since you're playing as Beastmen, you are incredibly mobile, so you don't actually have to stay in one area. Moving around will be easy enough. Taurox's faction trait is known as Call of the Doom Bulls and has the following benefits. Rampage, maintaining momentum from successive battle victories, earns Taurox rewards and bonuses. This is a completely new mechanic which we will talk about in great detail in just a bit. And of course, Dread cost minus 25% for increasing capacity of Minotaurs, Minotaurs with shields, and of course Minotaurs with great weapon units. This means that you'll be able to field a lot more Minotaurs rather quickly in your campaign. And given my playtime with the Slaughterhorn tribe, this should probably focus around your playstyle, going full cow. Taurox's own trait is known as Slaughterhorn and provides the following benefits. Raiding Stance is upgraded to Juggernaut Raiding Stance, which increases campaign movement range but reduces raiding income. Taurox leaves River of Blood effects in regions after winning battles, stacks up to 3 times. River of Blood is then detailed below, where it applies regional effects that decrease leadership for non-Chaos races and increases leadership for Chaos races. And of course it does also increase Chaos Corruption, with these effects stacking up to 3 times. Weapon strength plus 10% for Minotaur units in the Lord's army, and finally the ability Blood Beast. Blood Beast is a reusable ability, a explosion which causes fire damage, it's good against armor and strong versus single units, which also burns the target and reduces their leadership, very valuable if you're stuck within a horde of enemies. Taurox's own dedicated skill line is focused around doing a lot of damage as can be expected. Not only do you take away enemy winds of magic and increase your own magic resistance for your own army by 25%, but you'll further increase your possible damage output, and you can also focus around buffing up some of your troops. Increased armor for Gorgons, Giants, Jabbersights and Cygors, and also increasing the capacity of Gorgons +1, being able to also provide regeneration for Taurox and for your Minotaur units in your army is also very useful. This is what I meant before about saying that you're going to want to go full cow in your playthrough as Taurox. You're also going to have a choice of 2 minor branches, which are also available with the Doom Bulls. Here you can decide to make your Lord have terror and increase their weapon damage, or you can decide to increase their melee defense damage. It all really depends on your possible playstyle. Taurox's own unique items, the Rune Tortured Axes, will make him even more powerful on the battlefield. He's already strong as is, but he will become an unstoppable juggernaut if you can use your skills wisely. He's also got access to a skill known as Fueled by Blood, which reduces vigor loss by 25% for all units in his army, and speed plus 5% for all units in his army. This means that your units will be fast and they will not tire as quickly. We are all aware by now that you can recruit the other legendary lords through the Reward of Dread mechanic, but this is expanded further in the Eye of the Vortex for Taurox, where you can recruit the other remaining legendary lords, meaning that you will be able to play as all 4 legendary lords in the Eye of the Vortex. This is, at the time of recording this video, the only DLC to allow for other legendary lords of the same faction to also feature in multiple campaigns. Your narrative campaign focus will of course center around destroying Oxyotl and winning the Heart of the Dark battle, which will see Taurox blessed by the Chaos Gods once more. Though if you're not too keen on focusing around a narrative, there is of course a domination victory, so you have the option there. It all really depends on what exactly you want to do. Juggernaut Raiding Stance will become a regular stance for your Taurox playthrough. You can see on screen that Taurox can move a fair amount, though with Juggernaut Raiding Stance you can move plus 50 extra %, meaning that if you want to play in a very hyper aggressive sense, you'll of course want to stay in this stance as much as possible. Momentum is a new mechanic that comes into play for Taurox The Brass Bull. It is essentially a new resource which links to yet another new resource. I understand that can be confusing, but don't you worry. Momentum is linked to the new Rampage mechanic which is available for Taurox The Brass Bull. However, we'll go for that in just a second. It is important to note that the main way to get more momentum is through battles that you've won, so being aggressive is the main way that you're going to get this, and it's actually going to give you more incentive to get into more fights. However, of course, you can lose momentum through ending your rampage, movement range being replenished, we'll speak about that in a bit, ending your turn, retreating from a battle, and of course losing battles. There is a small icon above Taurox's portrait which will allow you to replenish your movement range fully. This can only be used when you've enacted a harsh rampage, and it will cost momentum to keep replenishing. But the main thing about this is that you can keep moving. If you keep gaining momentum, enact a rampage, and then just keep replenishing your movement, you can move through a large amount of the map without too much of a problem. As long as you're being aggressive and you plan your movement correctly, you should be fine. By the time of recording this video, I'd been able to be in around 9 consecutive battles, more or less, which not only meant that Taurox was able to be power leveled quite heavily, but I was able to move around the map for very large distances. We've spoken a lot about momentum, but what is it actually linked to? As you can see here, it links up to Taurox's Rampage, which is the clickable item above the momentum. As you can see here, there are different types of Rampage, but you have to unlock them by succession. The way you do this is by getting into fights. The more fights you get into, the more rampage marks that you will acquire. It will take a certain amount of rampage marks to unlock the harsh rampage, then a few more for the next one and the next one. The mechanic itself is also extremely versatile, as each rampage also has different options, so you can pick a new buff which will benefit you for around 5 turns each time. Let's look at all the ones for the harsh rampage first. Harsh Rampage has access to Eldritch Onslaught. The bonuses are Dread Gain plus 50, Winds of Magic Power Reserve plus 15 for Taurox's army, and the ability to cast Vile Tide in Taurox's army. Unyielding Onslaught will give you 50 Dread per turn and increase the ward save for 5% for all units in Taurox's army. Bloodthirsty Onslaught will provide 50 Dread per turn, and also a rather powerful constant buff known as Blood Greed. This increases melee attack, charge bonus, leadership, and also provides immune to psychology. And finally, Horrific Onslaught, which provides 50 Dread per turn, enemy leadership -8 for all enemies in Taurox's region, and enemy melee defense -8 once again for all enemies in that region. This one has the most benefit if you're dealing with a lot of enemies around the area and you've got multiple armies tackling them. Savage Rampage is the next tier, which you'll unlock after doing enough damage with the Harsh Rampage. It is also important to note here that all the buffs that you do acquire from Harsh Rampage will not be lost when you move on to Savage. In fact, you'll be getting a large amount of buffs if you can manage to get all the way to Cataclysmic Rampage. The first buff for Savage Rampage that you can pick is Stampede of Spoils, which increases Dread Gain by 100, income from raising settlements plus 20% for Taurox's army, and horde building construction costs minus 20% for Taurox's army. Stampede of Dread will increase Dread Gain by 100, but also Dread gained from battles by 25% for Taurox's army. Again, if you need a lot of Dread, this is probably the best one to go for. Stampede of More Sleep will increase dread gain by 100 and also trigger the next Solar Eclipse Dark Moon event. In your next turn, of course, but this does help if you need one of the benefits and you need them now. And finally, Stampede of the Chosen, which increases dread gained by 100 per turn, and momentum cost to replenish campaign movement range -1. This is if you want to keep moving and moving fast. Lastly, we have the Cataclysmic Rampage, which requires 150 Rampage marks. Again, this has 4 possible buffs that you can choose from, the first being the Call of the Goreballs, which increases dread gained by 200, dread cost -50% for increasing capacity of Goreball heroes, and hero recruit rank +5 for Goreballs for all armies. The next is Call of the Brass Shaman, dread gained +200, dread cost -50% for increasing the capacity of Brass Shaman heroes, and hero recruit rank +5 for Brass Shamans in all armies. Next we have Call of the Wargors, which increases dread gained by 200, dread cost -50% for increasing the capacity of Wargor heroes, and lastly hero recruit rank +5 for Wargors in all armies. And lastly we have Call of the Minotaurs, dread gained +200, and dread cost -25% for increasing capacity of Minotaurs, Minotaurs with shields, and Minotaurs with great weapon units. That's a lot of different possible buffs that you can take. And as you can tell, it's extremely versatile, so you can tailor it to your own specific playstyle. Taurox might end up being one of the most versatile characters in the Total War Warhammer series because of it. When you have enough Rampage marks, you will get a dilemma letting you know that you can now get yourself a Rampage. From there, just simply go on to what you want, click the reward you want for your specific Rampage, and then claim reward. Take your time picking which one you actually want or what suits your playstyle a little more. Since I enjoy Spellcaster support a lot when it comes to the Beastmen, I would suggest Eldritch Onslaught at the very beginning, but that's completely up to you. There is one thing I want to note, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or it's working as intended, but it's better to let you guys know just in case this is still there in release. Stance switching is a bit of a problem here. That's when you start off as normal and then move on to raid stance and so on. So for example now, I've got no more movement left with Taurox. But I've just started my Rampage, so naturally I want to start moving around and doing as much damage as possible. Being in raiding stance before replenishing my movement will allow me to benefit from the extra 50%. If I am in standard stance, replenish my movement, and then go to raiding stance, there can be an issue with stance switching, where then switching to the Juggernaut raiding stance will remove all your replenished movement. Again, I'm not sure if this is intended or not, or it's an unknown bug, but I'd rather let you guys know just in case, because, well, I've already made this mistake multiple times. You may have also noticed that I started my Rampage at turn 9, and if you more or less know the Eye of the Vortex map, you'll know that I've moved quite far. This is still the same turn, by the way, and what you also may have noticed is I'm already past the Savage Rampage, about to pick up the benefits, but also halfway through Cataclysmic Rampage. Like I said earlier in the video, if you can plan out where you're going to be moving, how you actually replenish your movement and so on, you can move very, very far. This is only one turn and I still haven't even ended the turn. And here we are at turn 16 and we can see that Taurox is far enough into the wastelands now, very far away from where I originally started near the Black Coast. What you can see on this map is there is a bunch of ruins. I actually took a very obvious route when I was going around doing damage, and any ruins in those locations, barring of course those in control of Clan Rictus, but I did deal with Fraught, all those ruins are my path of destruction throughout 7 turns. So that means that you're going to be highly mobile, you're going to get into a lot of fights, and you're going to be able to keep constantly moving. This is perhaps going to be the most hyper-aggressive campaign for players in the Warhammer series. What you're seeing right now is what I've been using more or less as a stack in my campaigns. Of course, doom stacking is a little harder with the Beastmen right now, as Dread, the new currency for the Beastmen, is the deciding factor here. Dread is used for so much when it comes to increasing capacity or better upgrades for your headstones and so many different factors that obviously you're not going to be able to doom stack early on. Of course, Taurox does get access to more Dread through the Rampages, and being able to get into far more battles does help too. Essentially, you will be getting Dread at a much quicker rate than all the other Beastmen lords. How you use said dread is completely up to you, so if you take your time you'll more or less find the playstyle that you want and exactly where you want to spend said resource. Of course, that's not everything when it comes to the Beastmen. We do have a bunch of new units being included into the DLC, the terrifyingly disgusting Jabberslife, the powerful Gorgon, among a few others. What I wanted to do is separate the videos into two parts. Taurox deserved his own faction focus, and then the units, since they are not exclusive to Taurox, can be looked at much greater detail in their own dedicated video later this afternoon. We'll also be doing the same when it comes to Oxyotl and all the Lizardmen units too. So what do you guys think about Taurox so far? He's quite detailed and he has a lot of new mechanics which might prove quite fun for the player base. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our fame level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our king level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.